the forbidden boundary. The galaxy had one rule that every species understood from the moment they achieved faster-than-light travel. Never cross into human territory. It was not written in any treaty. No diplomatic council had voted on it. No alliance enforced it. The rules simply existed, passed down through generations like an ancient survival instinct. Some species claimed humans had placed warning beacons along their borders centuries ago. Others said the boundary was marked by the wreckage of those foolish enough to test it. But most agreed on one truth: humans had withdrawn into their corner of space and they wanted to be left alone. Admiral Karath of the Zelthari Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, staring at the holographic display before him. 800 warships floated in formation behind him, their hulls gleaming with fresh battle paint. The Zelthari were conquerors by nature, proud warriors who had subjugated 47 systems in the past decade alone. Their military strength was unmatched in 3 sectors. Their technology rivaled the oldest civilizations. And their admiral was not a man who believed in ghost stories. The border zone lay ahead, marked only by empty space and distant stars. No defense stations. No patrol ships. No signs of life whatsoever. Karatha's tactical officer, a young Zelthari named Vess, stood nervously beside him. She had reviewed the historical records, the warnings from other species, the mysterious disappearances. Her voice carried hesitation as she spoke. "Admiral, the Council recommended we avoid this sector entirely. Every species that has crossed this line in the past 200 years has either vanished or returned broken, refusing to speak of what they encountered." Karath did not look at her. His eyes remained fixed on the empty void ahead. The Council grows soft. They see shadows where there is only darkness. Humans abandoned expansion 3 centuries ago. They retreated into isolation. If they possessed such fearsome power, why would they hide? Why would they surrender so much territory without a fight? Vess pulled up data on her console. Intelligence reports suggest humans achieved some form of technological breakthrough before their withdrawal. After that, they severed almost all contact with galactic civilization. The few trade delegations that approached their borders were turned away peacefully but firmly. No one knows what lies beyond that line. The Admiral finally turned to face her, his expression hard. "Precisely. No one knows. And ignorance is unacceptable for an empire. We will cross this boundary. We will survey their territory. We will discover what they are hiding. And if they object, our fleet will remind them that the Zelthari Empire does not ask permission." He raised his hand toward the navigation officer. "All ships, prepare for boundary crossing. Maintain battle formation. Weapons systems on standby. Science vessels to the center of the formation. We proceed in 5 minutes." The order transmitted across the fleet. 800 warships aligned themselves, their engines humming with barely contained power. Crew members across every vessel felt a strange tension in the air. Some checked their weapons twice. Others whispered old prayers. A few simply stared at the invisible line they were about to cross, wondering if the stories were true. Karath counted down the final seconds. Crossing in 3, 2, 1. All ships advance. The fleet moved forward as one, sliding across the unmarked boundary into human territory. For the first few minutes nothing happened. Space looked identical on both sides. Stars shone with the same distant light. Sensors showed no changes, no anomalies, no threats. Some officers began to relax, breathing easier. Perhaps the stories were exaggerated. Perhaps humans truly had become irrelevant. Then the silence came. It started subtly. Communication channels developed a faint static. Not loud enough to block transmissions, but present enough to be noticed. Ships reported minor fluctuations in their power systems, brief drops that lasted only seconds before stabilizing. The science vessels detected strange readings, energy signatures that appeared and disappeared too quickly to analyze properly. Captain Vess frowned at her console. "Admiral, we are detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the fleet's vicinity. The pattern does not match any natural phenomenon I have seen before." Karath dismissed the concern with a wave. "Residual radiation from old human facilities, perhaps. Continue forward. All science vessels begin deep scans of nearby systems. Locate any human installations or infrastructure." The fleet pressed deeper into human space. They traveled for 6 hours without incident, passing several star systems that showed signs of previous habitation. Abandoned stations floated in orbit around dead worlds. Mining facilities sat empty, their equipment still in place but powered down. It was as if humanity had simply walked away from entire colonies, leaving everything behind. A scout ship reported finding an intact human outpost on the third moon of a gas giant. Karath ordered a landing team to investigate. 12 Zelthari soldiers descended to the surface, their combat armor gleaming in the dim light of the distant sun. The outpost was small, designed for perhaps 50 inhabitants. Its doors were sealed but not locked. The team entered easily. Inside they found living quarters, research labs, and storage facilities. Everything was preserved perfectly, as if the occupants had left only yesterday. Meals sat half-eaten on tables. Computer terminals displayed screensavers. Personal belongings remained in sleeping quarters. But there were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no indication of what had happened to the humans who lived there. The team leader activated his communicator. "Admiral, the facility is intact but completely abandoned. There is no damage, no evidence of evacuation procedures. It is as if everyone simply vanished in the middle of their daily routines." Karath considered this information carefully. "Download all data from their computers. Collect any technology that appears advanced. We will study it back on the flagship." The team began their work, connecting portable drives to human systems. But as they accessed the first terminal, every screen in the facility flickered simultaneously. Text appeared in Zelthari language, though the computers had no translation software installed. "You have entered restricted space. Leave now." The soldiers stepped back, weapons raised. The team leader's voice carried an edge of fear. "Admiral, the facility just displayed a warning message in our language. The system should not be capable of this." Before Karath could respond, the communication cut off. Not with static or interference, but with complete silence. The flagship's communication officer tried every frequency, every backup channel. Nothing. The scout ship was gone from sensors. The landing team had vanished. Vess turned to the Admiral, her face pale. "Sir, we have lost contact with Scout Vessel 7 and its entire ground team. Sensors show no debris, no energy discharge, nothing. They are simply gone." Karath felt ice form in his chest, but he refused to show fear before his crew. "Deploy 3 more scout ships to that location. Full battle readiness. Weapons armed." 3 vessels broke from formation and accelerated toward the moon. They reached orbital position and began scanning. The outpost was still there, undamaged. But the previous scout ship was nowhere to be found. No wreckage, no ion trails, no indication it had ever existed. One of the new scout ships prepared to land when its captain reported something impossible. "Admiral, our chronometers just reset. According to our internal clocks, we have been in this location for 18 hours, but our mission logs show we arrived only 2 minutes ago." Another scout ship confirmed the same phenomenon. Time itself seemed to be behaving strangely near the human outpost. Karath ordered all 3 vessels to retreat immediately. They complied, but as they turned away from the moon, their sensors detected something that made every crew member freeze. Ships. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All around the fleet, appearing on sensors as if they had always been there. Not human ships but wrecks. Destroyed vessels from a dozen different species, their hulls torn apart, their debris floating in silent orbits. Some looked ancient, centuries old. Others appeared recent, their metal still gleaming. Vess pulled up identification markers from the wrecks. Her voice shook as she read the names. "Admiral, these vessels match missing ships from the past 300 years. Every species that crossed into human territory and never returned. They are all here, destroyed, arranged in a pattern around our fleet." Karath stared at the display, seeing the truth he had refused to acknowledge. This was not a coincidence. This was a graveyard, and they had just added themselves to the collection. A new message appeared on every screen across every ship simultaneously. The text was calm, precise, and utterly cold. "You were warned. Every species was warned. This territory is restricted. You have 60 minutes to leave. Any ship remaining after that time will be disabled and dismantled. Your crews will be returned to your borders with a reminder. This is your only chance." Karath slammed his fist against the console. "Find the source of that transmission. Jam their signals. Prepare all weapons. We will not be threatened by ghosts and shadows." But even as he gave the orders, he noticed something that turned his blood to ice. The debris field around them was moving, slowly, deliberately, forming a sphere around the fleet. The wrecked ships were being positioned by some invisible force, creating a cage of metal and death. And in the distance, barely visible against the starlight, something massive began to move. Something that had been waiting, watching, patient as stone. The human defense network was waking up, and the Zelthari Empire was about to learn why the rule existed. The countdown had begun. The price of ignorance. Admiral Karath watched the chronometer on his display count down the minutes. 58 minutes remaining. His tactical team worked frantically to locate the source of the transmission, but every scan came back empty. The message had appeared simultaneously on every system across 800 ships, bypassing encryption, firewalls, and isolated networks as if they did not exist. Whatever human technology created that message was beyond anything the Zelthri had encountered. Captain Vess coordinated with the fleet's science vessels, her voice tense over the communication channel. All ships report the same phenomenon. The debris field is moving under intelligent control. No visible propulsion systems, no energy signatures we can identify. The wrecks are positioning themselves in a perfect spherical formation around us with mathematical precision. Karath refused to accept the situation. Activate jamming fields across the entire fleet. Overload their systems with electromagnetic pulses. We will disrupt whatever technology they are using to control those wrecks. The order executed immediately. Powerful jamming signals erupted from 50 specialized vessels, filling space with interference designed to disable any known technology. The electromagnetic pulses fired in coordinated waves, enough energy to fry the circuits of an entire planetary defense network. Nothing changed. The debris continued its slow, deliberate movement. The human warning remained displayed on every screen, countdown unchanged. It was as if the Zelthri fleet was shouting into a void that simply absorbed their efforts without acknowledgement. One of the science vessels reported a discovery. Admiral, we have analyzed the wreckage composition. Some of these ships are over 270 years old. The metal decay patterns are consistent with that timeline. But the precision of their current movement suggests whatever is controlling them has maintained perfect awareness of their structural integrity, adjusting force application to prevent further damage while repositioning them. Vess looked at Karath with growing fear in her eyes. Sir, that level of sustained calculation and control over such a long period requires computational power beyond our understanding. If humans have been maintaining this system for centuries without any visible maintenance or infrastructure, their technology has advanced far beyond galactic standards. The Admiral's pride warred with the creeping dread in his chest. Redirect all weapons to target the debris. If they want to build a cage, we will show them what happens when you trap a predator. All ships, open fire on the wreckage. Clear a path for retreat. 800 warships unleashed their arsenals. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, kinetic projectiles, and fusion warheads streaked through space toward the moving debris field. The amount of firepower released could have sterilized a dozen planets. Light filled the void as explosions bloomed across the battlefield. When the light faded and sensors cleared, the debris field remained unchanged. Not a single piece of wreckage had been destroyed or even displaced. The attacks had simply vanished, absorbed or redirected by something invisible. The wrecks continued their mathematical dance, now forming 90% of a complete sphere around the fleet. Karath felt sweat form on his brow. That is impossible. Our weapons could not have simply disappeared. A new message appeared, this one different from the warning. It contained a simple visual, tactical data showing the exact trajectory of every weapon fired by the Zelthri fleet, tracked from the moment of launch to the moment of impact with spatial barriers that should not exist. The message included a single line of text. Your weapons have been catalogued and neutralized. 42 minutes remain. Vess pulled up new sensor data, her hands shaking. Admiral, we are detecting massive gravitational anomalies forming throughout the fleet. Space itself is being manipulated around our ships. Some vessels report their navigational systems showing impossible readings. According to their instruments, they are occupying the same coordinates as other ships, but we can clearly see they are separated by kilometers. Karath opened a fleet-wide channel, his voice carrying forced authority. All ships, initiate emergency faster-than-light jumps. Scatter pattern Omega. We retreat to the border immediately. 800 ships activated their jump drives simultaneously. Energy built up around their hulls as they prepared to tear through space and escape. The drives reached full power, ready to execute the jump. Nothing happened. Every ship remained exactly where it was. Jump drives showed full charge and operational status, but the fundamental physics that allowed faster-than-light travel had simply stopped working. It was as if the universe itself had changed the rules within this region of space. Panic spread through the fleet. Captains reported to the flagship in rapid succession, their voices rising in pitch and urgency. Ships attempted conventional acceleration, but found their maximum speed reduced to a fraction of normal. Some vessels reported their engines working perfectly, burning fuel at standard rates, but producing almost no thrust. Others saw their power systems fluctuate wildly, draining and recharging in patterns that defied their engineering specifications. Vess studied the data, her tactical training fighting against the impossibility of what she was seeing. "Sir, I believe we are caught in some form of localized spatial manipulation field. Humans have created a bubble of altered physics around our fleet. Inside this bubble, they control the fundamental forces. They can determine what works and what does not." A brilliant officer named Tesvik, serving as the fleet's chief scientist, sent an urgent communication to the bridge. "Admiral, I have analyzed the energy patterns surrounding us. This technology is not just advanced, it is revolutionary. Humans have achieved practical manipulation of spacetime at scales we considered theoretical impossibilities. If they can maintain this level of control casually as a defensive measure, their offensive capabilities must be equally beyond our comprehension." Karath stared at the chronometer. 28 minutes remaining. His empire's finest fleet, the pride of Zelthari military might, was trapped like insects in amber. He had led them into a cage they could not break, against an enemy they could not see, using technology they could not understand. The debris sphere completed its formation, sealing them inside. Through the gaps between wrecked ships, Karath could see normal space beyond, so close yet completely unreachable. The cage was perfect, a monument to every species that had ignored the warning. Then something new appeared on sensors. A single contact, small by capital ship standards, approaching from deeper in human territory. It moved at impossible speeds, crossing distances that should have taken hours in mere minutes. The object decelerated smoothly, coming to rest just outside the debris sphere. Vess magnified the visual display, and the bridge crew fell silent. It was a ship, but unlike anything in Galactic records. Its hull was smooth, seamless, with no visible weapons, no engine ports, no windows or hatches. The surface seemed to shift subtly, as if it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It was not large, perhaps the size of a Zelthari corvette, but it radiated a presence that made their massive dreadnoughts feel insignificant. A communication request came through standard channels. For the first time, humans were initiating direct contact. Karath accepted immediately, desperate for any chance to negotiate. The screen activated, showing a human figure. He appeared middle-aged by human standards, wearing a simple dark uniform with no decorations or rank insignia. His expression was neutral, neither angry nor sympathetic. He studied Karath for a moment before speaking in perfect Zelthari language. "I am designated warden of this sector. You crossed into restricted territory despite clear warnings. You ignored the evidence of previous violations. You attempted to use force against systems designed to contain force. Why?" Karath drew himself up, trying to maintain dignity despite his situation. "I am Admiral Karath of the Zelthari Empire. We are explorers and warriors. We do not recognize territorial claims that lack enforcement or justification. Your species withdrew from galactic affairs centuries ago. We came to understand why, to learn what you were hiding." The warden's expression did not change. "Hiding implies secrecy from those with a right to know. You have no such right. Humans withdrew because we chose to pursue paths that required isolation. Not for our protection but for yours." Vess spoke before Karath could stop her. "For our protection? You have trapped our fleet, disabled our weapons, and manipulated space itself around us. That sounds like a threat, not protection." The warden turned his attention to her, and Vess felt as if she were being examined at a molecular level. "You misunderstand. These defenses are automatic, proportional responses to unauthorized entry. They are restraint, not aggression. True human defensive capabilities would have ended this encounter in microseconds. We maintained old automated systems along our borders to give violators a chance to learn and leave." He gestured toward the debris sphere surrounding them. "Every ship in that graveyard crossed our borders with hostile intent. Most refused warnings. Some attacked immediately. All were given opportunities to retreat. These wrecks are not trophies. They are lessons, preserved so others might learn without paying the same price." Karath felt anger rise despite his fear. "You speak of lessons while holding us prisoner. What lesson is there in overwhelming force? Any species with such power could enforce their will across the galaxy. Why do you hide if you are so superior?" The warden was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that suggested vast experience and deep conviction. 347 years ago, humanity achieved a breakthrough in fundamental physics. We learned to manipulate the base fabric of reality, to reshape the rules that govern existence within defined spaces. The implications were staggering. With this technology, we could have conquered the galaxy in weeks. We could have rewritten entire civilizations to serve our purposes. We could have become gods among the stars. He paused, letting the words sink in. But our greatest minds asked a simple question. Just because we can, should we? We looked at our history, at the times humans wielded power without wisdom, at the suffering caused by those who confused capability with righteousness. We decided to withdraw, to use our breakthrough for our own development, to leave other species to find their own paths without our interference. Vess felt understanding dawn. You isolated yourselves not from weakness but from responsibility. You feared what you might become. The warden nodded slightly. We feared what we might do to others. Power without restraint corrupts absolutely. We chose restraint. We marked our borders and made the rule clear. Leave us alone and we will leave you alone. Those who respect that boundary have nothing to fear from humanity. Those who violated encounter systems designed to teach respect without unnecessary death. Karath saw his opening. Then you do not intend to destroy us? Destruction was never the goal, the warden replied. Education is. You will be released but not without cost. Your fleet will be systematically disabled, one ship at a time. Weapons removed, engines reduced to minimal function, enough to limp back to your borders. Your crews will be unharmed but humbled. And you will carry a message back to your empire and to every species that hears your story. The chronometer hit 0. The debris sphere around them began to glow with soft blue light. Karath felt the eternal dominance shudder as invisible forces gripped its hull. Systems across the ship began shutting down in sequence, following a pattern that prevented any catastrophic failures but left the vessel helpless. The warden continued speaking as the process unfolded. Tell your people what you found here. Tell them about the cage made from those who came before. Tell them that human territory is forbidden not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to know the difference between power and wisdom. Tell them that the rule exists to protect them from us, and us from the temptation they represent. Ship by ship, the Zelthari fleet was methodically stripped of offensive capability. Weapons were precisely excised from hulls, leaving the rest of the structure intact. Jump drives were recalibrated to minimum safe speeds. Life support, communications, and basic navigation were left fully functional. It was surgical, efficient, and utterly humiliating. Karath watched his mighty fleet reduced to a convoy of crippled vessels. His pride lay in ruins, but his crew would survive. How long have you been doing this? How many species have you taught this lesson? The warden's expression softened slightly, showing something that might have been regret. Every species that crosses learns. Some require only the warning. Others, like yours, need direct experience. In 3 centuries, 42 major military fleets have violated our borders. All returned home to tell the tale. The rule grows stronger with each telling. As the process completed, the debris sphere opened, creating a clear path back toward the border. The warden's ship remained stationary, watching them prepare to leave. You have 48 hours to exit human territory, the warden said. After that, if any Zelthari vessel remains, we will assume hostile intent and respond accordingly. Take your fleet home, Admiral Karath. Take your story. And never return. The communication ended. The warden's ship vanished, not accelerating away but simply ceasing to exist in that location. The Zelthari fleet limped forward, moving at agonizingly slow speeds toward the border they had crossed with such confidence. Karath sat in his command chair, staring at the display showing his crippled fleet. Vess stood beside him, her voice quiet. What will you tell the High Council? The Admiral was silent for a long time before answering. The truth. That we encountered a species so advanced they could have destroyed us with ease, but chose mercy instead. That the rule exists for a reason. That some boundaries must be respected not because we lack the courage to cross them, but because we lack the wisdom to survive what waits on the other side. The fleet crossed back into galactic space 2 days later, battered and humbled but alive. Word of their encounter spread quickly. Ships from dozen species reported the story, embellishing details, adding their own warnings. The rule that had existed for 3 centuries became stronger, more urgent, more universally accepted. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives debated the implications. Some called for alliance attempts, arguing that any species with such power should be engaged diplomatically. Others proposed military research to develop countermeasures, refusing to accept human superiority. But the majority agreed on a simpler course. Respect the boundary, honor the rule, and leave humanity to their chosen isolation. Admiral Karath retired from military service, unable to lead after his fleet's humiliation. But he spent his remaining years traveling to military academies across the Empire, telling his story to young officers who dreamed of glory. He showed them the scans of the debris sphere, the records of their helplessness, the cold efficiency of human restraint. His message never changed. There is a rule in this galaxy, one rule that must never be broken. Never cross into human territory. Not because they are cruel, but because they are kind. Not because they are weak, but because they are strong. They could rule us all, but they choose not to. They gave us a gift, freedom to make our own mistakes anywhere else in the galaxy. Honor that gift, respect their borders, and pray they never change their minds about leaving us alone. The story became legend. Children across hundreds of worlds grew up hearing about the fleet that challenged human space and returned broken but alive. Poets wrote epics about the wisdom of restraint. Philosophers debated the ethics of power voluntarily limited. Religious leaders preached about the virtue of those who could destroy but chose to teach instead. And in the depths of human territory, automated systems continued their patient vigil, waiting for the next species that would test the rule. The wardens remained ready, hoping each new violation would be the last, knowing it would not be. The cage of debris grew slowly larger with each passing century, a monument to arrogance and a warning to those wise enough to heed it. The rule remained absolute, simple, and clear. Never cross into human territory. Every species knows this law. And those who forget pay the price in shame, survival, and stories that echo across generations as a reminder that some boundaries exist not to be challenged, but to be respected.